Today we're going to dive deep into Cyprus's almost everything. Like we're going to cover almost everything. So let's think about the prehistoric Cyprus. So the first human traces are about hunter-gatherer remains at the Attic Kremonos cave on the south coast and the Natufian culture from the Levant. And there used to be dwarf hippos and elephants, and you may wonder what happened to them. Basically, what happened was we ate them. So there used to be such rich and big faunas over the world, and what happened is that human sapiens or other type of sapiens just came to the place and were like, oh, look at this animal, let's hunt and eat it. And then they went to extinction because these are big mammals and they require many months of pregnancies, and hunting their little ones is a lot easier than the bigger ones. So you get the picture. And then the first farmers, the world's oldest complete human figurine found in Aya Varvara, which had 80% of Central Anatolian Neolithic and 20% of Levantine genetics. And so these people are thought they're from Türkiye, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, or other countries. So a mix of these people, that's what they think. We don't have a specific DNA. Like we cannot say that they were exactly from this country. This is what I understood from the research papers. That's why they say Central Anatolian Neolithic or Levantine genetics or whatever. And then that is super cute, like 9,500 years old human cat burial discovered in Cyprus. I don't know. Cats are awesome. And then we can take a look who conquered the island. I don't know how to read this exactly. Mycenaean Greeks, Assyrian Empire, Persian, Alexander, Roman Empire, Arab raids, Crusaders, which England, Republic of Venice, Ottoman Empire, British Empire, and so on. And when did the Turks arrive in Cyprus is actually 1571. And why was because of the Venice naval supremacy in the eastern Mediterranean threatened Ottoman trade routes. So they were like, we gotta get this so that we can secure ourselves. And the conquest was in 1970. And yeah, 11 months it took. So yeah. And the thing that Ottoman Empire does or did back in the day was to bring Turkish people into the places that they have recently conquered, and those people would be like, for example, if two families have conflict between each other, one of them would be sent to a newly conquered or discovered places so that they can maintain those relationships and so that they can Turkishify the places that they have newly conquered. That was just a sort of policy. And so there were Muslim Turks and Orthodox Greeks in those years during the Ottoman rule, which ended in 1878. So Britain's deception, and so the way that it ended was basically, so in 1878, the Ottoman Sultan handed over the administration of Cyprus to Britain in exchange for military guarantee against Russia. And then the rent was never paid, obviously. They never do. So Britain was supposed to pay an annual rent to Ottomans. Instead, the money was deposited into the Bank of England to offset Ottoman Crimean War debts. The Ottomans never received a penny. And then visiting Cyprus in 1907, under the Secretary Churchill declared, "We have no right, except by force majeure, to take a penny of the Cyprus tribute to relieve us from our own obligations." Yeah, whatever. And Ottoman Empire joined World War I on Germany's side. Britain declared the agreement void and formally annexed Cyprus as a crown colony, turning a temporary lease into permanent occupation. So they think the island was sold or the island was conquered by Britain, but that was not the case. So Ottoman Empire had to rent it due to those issues, and then later Britain was like, okay, I'll take that, okay, I'll have it, and that's what happened. The island was never given to anyone. It basically got stolen. Pickpocketers, they're very notorious in UK or London, so I guess you get the picture now. They kind of pickpocketed the island as well. Anyway, Cypriots were forced to pay a debt which they were in no way connected. The Cyprus tribute became an annual source of nationalist anger towards the British. And how were the Turks and Greeks turned against each other? So in 1878 through 1914, colonial rule kept the two communities in separate legal statuses. Greeks were classified as autonomous and Turks as a protected minority. So this specifically peculiar word that is selected, which is minority, is extremely important. And you can even see this happening in our today's world with East Turkestan and Uyghurs. And the thing is, China is genociding, occupying the Uyghurs' lands and country, which they're denying. But if you can find media that is not controlled by those people who does, you can actually find out the truth. So East Turkestan is 4 times bigger than California. It's the 16th largest country of the world. So how can you expect those people being such minority, These all chosen words, like, these are just to trick you into propaganda that does not support any groups of the people, and those propaganda just support the rich people and the people who are in charge of others. They don't think about me or you. They only think about themselves and their pockets. And in 1950s, EOKA terror organization, so Turks call this a terror organization, and you're going to understand in a second. So history is a biased thing, but then we have truth. Truth that is clear from the lies and speculations and propaganda. And if we can reach those truths, we can find out what actually happened and why actually it happened. And that is important. That is something that every human must do and know and seek for the truth. The underneath all these lies, speculations, nationalist propagandas, and the other things, we need to search what is what. Anyway, Greek Cypriot armed group EOKA launched attacks on both the British and Turkish Cypriots in pursuit of union with Greece, which is a no-citizen, and Turkish Cypriots were directly targeted, and that's why we call it that. And in 1958, TMT, which is Turkish Resistance Organization, was found. Intercommunal violence escalated to a slogan of partition, which is Taksim, gained traction. So this is basically partition, dividing the island into two and everybody living happily in one side. And through 1963 and 4, the President Makarios attempted to amend the constitution. Bloody Christmas, which is December 1963, intercommunal violence erupted and hundreds of Turkish Cypriots were killed. They deny it. In July 1974, Greek junta, the Athens military junta, staged a coup in Cyprus to achieve enosis, which is connecting the island to Greek, which actually it never happened, by the way. Greek Cypriot nationalists seized power, triggering an international crisis. So we're going to cover that, but Makarios himself told, do not stage a coup. Don't do it, otherwise Turks will come and occupy the island. Like occupy, I'm saying it because I'm talking through his mouth. So yeah, in 20 July 1974, Türkiye, invoking the 1960 Treaty of Guarantee, Türkiye launched a military intervention. It took 37% of the island. The north-south division became permanent, which was Taksim. Who has military bases on the island as of right now? United Kingdom, obviously. United States, obviously. Like, those are the people who actually cause these things. So, Turkey and Greece, as guarantor countries, this is expected. And very interestingly, Russia also has military bases on the island, which they're actually being used now. I think the United States and Greece military bases. I'm not exactly sure which one. I didn't really research that, but they're being used against Iran. And you understand, this is geopolitically important country, Cyprus, as we are speaking. So that's the kind of the only reason why we are so popular amongst everybody, and that's why we have every country in our business, literally. This is not just because we are so awesome, which we are, by the way, but these are just political issues, and we are suffering the causes as we always did throughout the history. And the republic that never was, through 1960 to 63. So what the constitution promised when under the Makarios Republic of Cyprus, the constitution promised power sharing. Turkish Cypriot held 30% of the government post, 40% of the army, and the vice president, Dr. Fazıl Küçük, had full veto power, guaranteeing genuine partnership. But, when we speak about any kind of partnership or relationship, we always say 50-50. So I don't understand why it was 30 to 40, which means Greek Cypriots held 70% of the governmental post, 60% of the army. And when you think there is already an imbalance here, and the reason why was minority, the word that we just discussed as previously, minority. So that's why this sort of percentage was given to these countries. Anyway, everything is political and strategical. Nothing is coincidence. And Zurich and London in 1959, the Republic was founded on the agreements signed by UK, Turkey, and Greece. Neither community could dominate the other. Enosis was explicitly forbidden, which is connecting the island to Greece. So I think, I don't know like exactly because I wasn't there, like, so I wasn't technically there, that's why there is no way of knowing. But when we think about neither community could dominate each other, and when we look at these percentages, you already see a domination. Like, Greek Cypriots are mostly dominating everything. You already see that, and I don't understand why they agreed on these things. They agreed on these terms. Anyway, Makarios himself said the agreements have created a state but not a nation, and he was right. And he openly viewed the constitution as a temporary stepping stone towards enosis. So all these things has happened, and the ideology that Greek Cypriots has had, and they still kind of do, or I don't know, that's maybe what media wants us to know, so that they can polarize each other even more. But they always want the island to be Turk-free and connected to Greece. But even when that happens, that's not going to solve your economical political or other problems. That's just a dream that is being sold to people so that there can be a community that can work towards a goal, which brings people closer. People think hate is a dangerous, bad thing, and it is, but what it does is that it creates a union, and that is very powerful, and we see this throughout the world and the history. So, there is a thing that's called Dunbar's number, which is the cognitive limit of approximately 150 people with whom an individual can maintain stable, meaningful, and social relationships. And how did humans overcome this number was basically having a common goal, believing into man-made things. I'm going to say such as religion, but it's going to be extremely dangerous thing to say. But nation, such as, we can give another example to it. So, but religion is such a strong, I'm going to say weapon again, but it's going to be again extremely sensitive, and it is, I understand that. But the thing is, we can see that these religions has gone corrupt. We cannot deny that. I don't think we can deny that. The prophet didn't say, I'm assuming he didn't say that divide into groups of people and hate each other. I don't think any prophet said this throughout the history. Like Orthodox Christians, Protestants, and these things, these different groups of religious, I don't think prophet suggested do this and hate the other one who doesn't belong into your group. Anyway, so back in the day, after the number exceeded 150, people would start, or that community would start collapsing. And when humans overcame this problem through believing into a common thing, they have done numerous things that we can see throughout the history. The deadlock and exclusion, Turkish Cypriot ministers repeatedly vetoed legislations per their constitutional right. Greek Cypriots accused of them paralyzing the state. The real goal was to remove the veto entirely. The Akritas Plan, a secret Greek Cypriot government plan leaked in 1966, revealed a strategy to systematically strip Turkish Cypriots of their constitutional rights and swiftly unite the island with Greece. And Makarios's 13th Amendment. In November 1963, Makarios proposed 13 amendments to abolish Turkish Cypriots' veto right and army quotas. Professor Ernst Forsthoff, neutral Supreme Court president, Makarios bears sole responsibility. His aim is to deprive the Turkish community of their rights. And that has been the case, and many people have a lot of opinion about the state of Cyprus, but not a lot of knowledge of what exactly happened throughout the history. And the genocide and why Türkiye intervened in 1974. So we can take a look at these numbers. 364 Turkish Cypriots was killed between 1963 and 64. 25,000 of them were displaced from their homes. 103 Turkish villages was evacuated, and 20 plus more mass graves identified since then. We already talked about Bloody Christmas in December 1963. EOKA militants attacked Turkish Cypriot homes in Nicosia. In Kumsal, the wife and 3 children of Major Nihat İlhan were shot dead in their bathtub. The house is now a museum of barbarism. It's horrifying. I've been there when I was a small kid, and it's traumatizing. You can see the woman, the baby, and the other kids all dead in the bathtub. Anyway, it's horrifying. And then the economic siege between 1963 and 74, Turkish Cypriots were blockaded into enclaves covering just 3% of the island. Even baby food was embargoed. The UN Secretary General reported in 1964 that restrictions amount to a veritable siege. And why Turkey had the right. The 1960 Treaty of Guarantee gave Turkey, Greece and Britain the legal right to intervene if the constitution was violated. After the Greek junta coup of July 15, Turkey invoked this treaty. The Council of Europe confirmed Turkey acted legally. And there are other mass graves from Ios Vasilios. On 23 December 1963, 21 Turkish Cypriots were taken hostage, were executed and buried in a mass grave, exhumed in January 1964 in the presence of the Red Cross and British Army officers. Victims showed signs of torture. The world press reacted. The Washington Post, Greek Cypriot fanatics appear bent on a policy of genocide. Nicholas Sampson installed as president after the 1974 coup, later admitted, had Turkey not intervened, I would have annihilated the Turks in Cyprus. You can see the political, ideological viewpoint that they have. And they have had before, even before this. And these are still being used. We can see that they're being used on the youngsters of Cypriot, Greek Cypriots and Greece as well. But a fight, a war, is never going to solve any of our problems. The junta versus Makarios. The Athens junta saw Makarios as too independent and obstacle to Enosis. Makarios warned the junta in writing on 2nd July 1974 that their coup plans would hand Turkey a pretext to invade. And he was right. And the coup came after 13 days. And Makarios, so I've read a book about this, but I didn't really include it in here, but so according to that book, Makarios was hanging out with Russia and other, I'm talking about between 1960 to 63 during Republic of Cyprus, and they saw Makarios as too independent, and he was holding too much power. That's why they wanted to create this sort of confliction or a divide and conquer, let's say that, so that Makarios can lose its power, thus Cyprus. And the thing is, there was 10,000 soldiers from Greece National Security I don't really know how to say that in English. Let me think. National Security Army, I guess. And those people were sent back to Greece. And that's why all the coups in Cyprus was extremely disorganized due to this and a lack of soldiers. And that happened during the day of coup. So basically Greek Cypriots couped against Makarios. And when all of that was going on, Turkey came to intervene to put an end to it. Anyway, who was the enemy? We can ask this question. So, Ömer Kofala's memories from his 80 years of life. There is a book, and there was a page that I read that I wanted to share during Kördemen Gönyeli olayları in 1958. So the underlined sentences says English soldiers would say, "Here are the Greeks who want to attack to the villages of Shillura and Ayvasıl to Cypriot Turks." Another one, English soldiers would say, Greeks will attack you to provoke Cypriot Turks. And in June 12, 1958, a British patrol led by Sergeant Gill from the Alayköy station intercepted a group of 35 unarmed Greek Cypriots from Kurdamen who were reportedly heading to assist the village of Shillura. Instead of taking the detainees to a police station, the British authorities decided to release them into a volatile area inhabited by Turkish Cypriots. And you may understand why they were volatile, because they were being provoked by the British soldiers. Anyway, British soldiers transported the 35 men in trucks and dropped them off in an open field between Gönyeli and Kanlıköy. The men were forced to walk back to their home village, which was 25 kilometers, through territory where intercommunal tensions were at their peak. British units left the scene without ensuring the safety of the 35 men. Shortly after, the soldiers deported. The group was ambushed by Turkish Cypriots. And so there's always two sides to a story, and we can see what happened previously. Turkish Cypriots were being knowingly provoked against the Greek Cypriots, and then these Greek Cypriots were dropped off the scene without ensuring any of their security. So they never cared about us. They never cared about neither one of us, not the Turkish Cypriots, not the Greek Cypriots, not the Cypriots themselves. So I think if we can take a look at what really happened without these propagandas, without these political ideologies, we can understand, are we being used or are we being saved? Do you think UN or British or the UK or USA brought peace, or they were the one who caused the problem? Anyway, conclusion. Human presence in Cyprus stretches back 11,000 years. A very few islands on Earth can match this depth. Conquered by 15 plus more powers in 3,000 years, Turks arrived in 1571, which is a thing. People often think that Turks arrived after 1974, but that was not the case. We have been here for hundreds of years. And in the 1960 Republic lasted just 3 years, Makarios tried to strip Turkish Cypriots of all constitutional rights. 364 Turkish Cypriots were killed, 103 villages were evacuated, and 25,000 were displaced between 63 and 74. And the 1974 Greek junta coup gave Türkiye legal grounds to intervene under the 1960 Treaty of Guarantee. Today, 5 nations have military bases on the island, and Cyprus remains a geopolitical chessboard. This is what they see. This is how they see us, basically. And we can also take a look at the the countries who United Kingdom brought peace. Hindus and Muslims, which led Pakistan to partition. Arabics and Jews, you can see what's happening. Ireland's and Catholic and Protestants, Ireland's Catholics and Protestants, and Africa's Hutus and Tutsis. So you can see those countries and how the United Kingdom brought them peace, civilization, and humanity. And I want to also point out that today the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus has significant international limitations, such as international non-recognition, which is the only country that recognized Türkiye, recognized North Cyprus, is Türkiye, and economical and transportation issues, embargoes, travel issues, limited, actually no diplomacy at all, limited diplomacy to no diplomacy. And also I want to point out to my personal problem, which is it's impossible to ship anything to Cyprus. So that's a huge issue for us. Like maybe you are ordering stuff from like from your online shops website, like there is no Amazon, no Etsy. I don't want to really say these brands, but it's well known. So no Temu or anything. So you cannot imagine, like you cannot buy anything, you cannot bring anything. So please, can we stop this? Honestly, it's extremely annoying that the diploma that I have from my university is also unrecognized by every country. And I also have to go and prove that to Turkey, which is extremely ironic. But anyway, so we are facing a lot of problems as Turkish Cypriots, and all we want is to live in humane conditions like literally every other human on this world. So we look at these politics, our politicians, and the people talking about many things, but do they want to fill their pockets? Do they want to expand their wealth? Or do they truly care about us, our well-being, our health, our education? We need to consider these things. We shouldn't be expendable pawns in other people's plans and in other countries' plans. I hope Cyprus can earn the peace that it deserves sooner than later. I really hope that. And a war is extremely unnecessary, and Cyprus is extremely hot during summer. So imagine going through a war in 50 degrees Celsius. So we don't want that. So can we please get together and form a community that supports one another instead of trying to take everything to itself or trying to kill the other one. That's not a solution. We are human beings. The environment is suffering because of us. Many animals have went extinct because of us. And we need to focus on these things. We need to focus on how we can take care of our child, how we can improve their education and their consciousness. So these political histories, ideologies bring people together. That is true. But are we getting together for someone else's plan? Or are we really getting together for ourselves in future? This is an important thing that everybody must think. And I don't know if you're religious or non-religious, but we have a brain and we have to use it. Thank you.